Welcome to The Hidden Load, the podcast where we uncover the unseen weight carried by the educators and leaders in medicine and explore how to lighten it. I am Dr. Santina or Tina Wheat. I am a family physician, an educator, a leader, and a coach. Each week, we will dig into the challenges that often go unspoken, from burnout and boundaries to purpose and identity to figuring out sustainability, and share practical tools to help you move from chaos to calm and from burnout to balance. Because the hidden load does not have to be yours to carry alone, and in fact, shouldn't be. Let's get started. I know firsthand what it is like to give and give until there is absolutely nothing else. And I want to welcome you to episode 1, Common Yes, Normal No. And in this episode, we are going to start with something that is just foundational. In medicine, especially for those of us who teach, who lead, and who mentor, there are so many different things that we carry every single day that we feel are normal because they are just everywhere. We see that everyone around us is tired. We see that everyone around us is stretched thin. And we notice that everyone feels that they are pulled in a dozen different directions all at once. So that must be normal, right? Absolutely not. Because here is the truth. Just because something is common, that does not mean that it's normal. And in fact, if we keep treating these heavy and hidden loads as just the way things are in medicine, we will not only burn ourselves out, but we will also model burnout for our learners and our children, teaching the next generation that burnout is the default. Okay, so let's take a step back and unpack that all together. And let's begin with naming what is really happening. And that is naming the hidden load. And so I want to start by sharing a story with you. And unfortunately, this was something that happened all too often. A few years ago, I remember sitting in my bedroom late at night. I would sit with my laptop open, sitting in bed, with my inbox overflowing with emails. The house was finally quiet, and I thought, well, I'll just answer a few more emails before bed. And as my kids like to tell me now, I locked in. And a few emails turned into 40 before I knew it. And by the time I closed my laptop, it was well past midnight. And unfortunately, I knew that my alarm was going off at 5:30 the next morning. And here is the thing. No one asked me to do that. No one told me that it was the right answer to sacrifice my sleep to ensure that I answered emails. But somewhere along the way, I had absorbed the message that this is just how medicine is. This is just the job. I thought that it was being tired and overextended, and it was also pretty normal to feel a little resentful as part of the everyday job description. Does that sound familiar to you at all? You might have your own version of a story like that. And if I'm honest, I have lots of my own. Maybe your version is finishing notes after your kids are sound asleep. Maybe your version is writing your lectures on a Saturday night instead of going out with friends. Maybe it's staying late to comfort a learner who is struggling, even though you know that you already missed dinner with your family. Now, when I say the hidden load, what I really mean is the things that you are carrying that no one outside of this role truly sees. It might be the pagers or the text message or the app alerts that just don't stop, particularly in the middle of the night. It might be that student who is falling behind and needs the extra support that you're worried about. It might be that inbox that is full of patient messages that are waiting for you at 10 p.m., even though you've been through an entire day of clinic and all you need is a few extra hours of sleep. It might also be that committee work the evaluation, the lists of recommendation letters that you still have yet to write when you already are feeling like there's so much on your plate. It might also be the learners who are watching you for the cues on how to handle the stress, how to demonstrate professionalism, and even how to demonstrate humanity. That sounds really heavy. It is the load of being the backbone for our patients, for our learners, for our colleagues, for the rest of our clinical team, and truly for our institutions. And because so many of us are carrying this, it just becomes invisible. It blends into the background of medicine. But invisible doesn't mean that it's something that's light. And when we convince ourselves that this load, this weight is normal, then we tend to stop questioning it. And that's not okay. We need to question it. To help us do that, let's take a step back and compare this load to other professions. So let's zoom out for a moment. Let's imagine if we were talking about other professions working in the way that we are working with medicine. Let's start by thinking about teachers. If our teachers were expected to grade every assignment at home, to answer all of the parent emails at all hours of the day, doesn't matter when they came in, they had to respond within a few hours. If they had to design new curricula and still show up every morning and smile in front of a classroom of 30 odd students, all doing this without recognition or extra time or prep periods, then we would hear an uproar. And it would be absolutely right to hear that uproar. Or what about pilots? Imagine an airline saying, "Oh, our pilots are exhausted. They've been working 24 hours, but we still trust them to push through. And we need to do that for the sake of efficiency." You would never step foot on that plane. I know I certainly wouldn't. And here's a playful version. What if your favorite coffee shop told their baristas that when they were all done with work, "Oh, by the way, you need to go home after your shift and practice making lattes for the next 2 hours." They would just laugh and hand off their aprons before the sentence could even be said. These all seem ridiculous. Yet in medicine, we not only tolerate this hidden load, we also normalize it. I'm guilty of that myself. We say things like, "Oh, that's just residency," or "That's what it takes to get promoted." And the truth is that because of that, it becomes part of our identity to carry all of that load. But let me be clear, it does not have to be that way. And you might be saying, "Oh, well, medicine is a calling. We can't treat it just like a job." And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm the first person to say that. But something can be a calling and still not have the same cost that this load has. So let's talk about that cost of carrying this hidden load. Because this cost, it's not just about feeling tired. This cost shows up in your body. Sometimes it shows up as you waking up already exhausted. Or maybe it shows up as that feeling of your heart sinking in your chest when that app or your pager or your text messages go off. Or maybe it's showing up as that knot of tension that you're holding in your shoulders or your stomach that never quite goes away. I will never forget the time that I went to go get a massage and the masseuse was like, "Why are you holding all of this in your shoulders?" And at the time, that was probably the worst of my burnout. The cost also shows up in your relationships. It might be missing bedtime stories with your kids. It might be missing those recitals or plays. It also might be showing up late yet again to a friend's birthday dinner, if you even have the energy to make it at all. And then the cost might also be feeling like your partner gets that leftover version of you. I'm sure that many of you have had that sentiment where you feel like you're showing up as your best for everyone else. And then when you get home, it's just the extra version. In addition to how it shows up at home, the cost shows up in your career. That creeping cynicism when you stop feeling connected to the work that you once loved. You're no longer feeling that hope and that joy and that passion. You might be wondering if you even want to keep doing this. And to be honest, that's why I got into coaching myself. I saw so many people leaving the profession that I thought there had to be a better way. You might be watching your colleagues quietly stepping away from medicine altogether, not because they weren't good at it. Some of the best doctors I've ever seen have stepped away, but they step away because the system was asking too much and they didn't know how to break that cycle. And then the hardest part, well, there's the guilt. Even when you're doing absolutely everything you can, there might be this little voice in your head, and it might be whispering to you, you should be doing just a little bit more. You need to be showing up even more. But I'm here to tell you that that voice is wrong. And part of what I want to do with this podcast is to help you recognize what is wrong, to change that voice and challenge it, and to replace it with something that is healthier. Now, we rarely name these costs out loud because it feels like it's a weakness. But if we don't name these costs, then what we are doing is normalizing them. And I really want you to hear this clearly. This is not a weakness. This is what happens when our systems depend on people overextending themselves as the default setting. So now that we've talked about what the problem is and what the cost is, what do we do about it? How do we shift from common to normal? And so I want to share three small but powerful tools that I use with coaching clients and also with myself to begin shifting the mindset from I'm going to do what's common to I'm going to want to do what is actually normal. So the first thing that I want you to do is to name it in the moment. When you feel yourself absorbing something extra, that might be another committee, that might be another late night email, or it might be caring for another learner in crisis. I want you to pause and say, this is common, but it is not normal. Even that tiny reframe can help your brain separate what you are responsible for from what the system is offloading on you. It also helps you separate when you are going above and beyond. Okay. The second strategy is to ask yourself, at what cost? Now, before you automatically say yes to that additional request, I want you to ask yourself, if I take this on, what is the cost? At what cost am I taking to my health, to my family, to my energy, or to my learners? Sometimes the answer might be the cost is just too high. And when you make that decision, hold to that decision. You are allowed to decide that. And the third strategy is to model your boundaries out loud. This is especially important as educators and leaders. When you are able to say, I don't answer emails after 7 p.m., or I will need to hand this off and delegate this because my plate is completely full, then you are doing more than just protecting yourself. You are teaching your learners and also your peers that don't know how to do it yet that self-preservation and sustainability are incredibly important parts of professionalism. And I really believe that that is a legacy that is worth leaving. And now here is something that I would like to leave you with today. I want you to take one moment this week to notice where you have been treating something as normal just because everyone around you is doing it, just because it is common. I want you to write it down I want you to call it what it is. Common, but not normal. And I want you to think about how that feels. And I want you to name it instead of swallowing it. And I hope you will share with me how that felt. I want to thank you for spending this time with me in episode number 1, Common Yes, Normal No. If today's conversation resonated with you, then I would love for you to help me out with 3 quick things. The first is to subscribe or follow the show. That way you will never miss an episode. The second thing is to leave a rating or a review. It helps other educators and leaders in medicine find this podcast. And also, it helps remind me that these are conversations that are worth having. And then third, I hope you'll share this episode with a colleague who might need to hear what they're carrying is not theirs alone. Because sometimes the worst part of it is truly the isolation. And one more truth is that holding everyone else up should not mean that you are losing yourself. And before we wrap, I would love to share a little sneak peek at what is coming next. In episode 2, we are going to talk about the myth of balance. Now, we have all been told that we should find it and we should achieve it. But what if balance isn't actually what we think it is? And what if chasing it the wrong way is actually adding to our hidden load instead of relieving that load? That is what is coming up next week, and I can't wait to dive into this important topic with you. I'll see you then. Thanks for joining me on The Hidden Load. Tag me on Instagram at Dr. Tina Wheat or email me at santina@santinawheat.com with your takeaways and ideas. Don't forget to subscribe, and until next time, let's lighten your hidden load.